Hi guys, welcome back to an episode of Game Things. I'm your host for the week, Ming, and today our topic is going to be on the most recent Gamescom and some titles that were showcased during that event. The titles in questions here won't be the very popular titles, but instead they are titles that we at Game Things find interesting. So the first title that we're going to talk about is called Moonbreaker. Moonbreaker is a turn-based sci-fi digital miniatures game. So you might be wondering, what exactly is this digital miniatures game? To give you some idea of what this digital miniature game is, it's basically Warhammer but digital. If you don't know what Warhammer is basically just a board game but with like high quality figures. It's not exactly a board game, more so a tabletop game but with like high quality figures that you can paint on. So it's a relatively interesting hobby for a lot of people out there, and you might see it sometimes in your local game store. So yeah, this digital miniature game is basically Warhammer but digitalized. And of course, like the actual Warhammer, you can also paint your figures, well, your digital figures in this case. You can paint them with a lot of detail, and yeah, that's one of the charms of the game. Aside from the cool painting aspect, the gameplay for the game is pretty decent, I would say. In terms of gameplay, what you can do is basically just XCOM. You just position your units and you just plan out how you want to attack your opponents. So it's basically a strategy game, but with you know, the ability to customize your units to like very fine detail. So yeah, it's pretty cool. The game is currently planned to be in early access on September 29, so if any of you are interested, make sure to mark down the date and check it out when it comes live. The next title that we're going to talk about is called Friends vs. Friends, which is coming to PC and consoles. This game is pretty unique. It's a card-based first-person shooter game, and each card comes in the form of a weapon or a skill. On top of that, each card will also have a cost and a level. Don't quote me on the cost because the devs didn't exactly specify that it's a cost, but they do have some sort of number on the top left, which I think is a cost. We don't really know, but yeah, we'll update you guys further later on when we get more info. But in terms of the skills, they are pretty interesting, honestly. Weapons wise, you have like the basic guns like snipers, machine guns, and you have like katanas, etc. Pretty basic stuff. But in terms of skill cards, they have some pretty cool stuff, including things like nukes, your general buffs, debuffs to enemies, and somehow, some reason, a increase to your size. I'm not really sure why, but it looks pretty good. In terms of the art style, it's a lot like Borderlands, so if you guys like this type of art style, you might be into this game. But it looks pretty fun and chaotic, so if it's free, I would say give it a shot, to be honest. Then the next title that we're going to cover is called Lies of P. Lies of P is a steampunk Victorian era Souls-like game that is based off of Pinocchio. Yeah, you heard that right, it's Pinocchio. But in terms of the design, it actually looks pretty good. I mean, the main character, Pinocchio in this case, doesn't actually have a long nose, but looks pretty darn badass. And the design of the enemies is like pretty good. The graphics as well is pretty insane. The game unfortunately will only be coming in 2023, but if you're interested in like Souls-like games and just want to look at some pretty good design, I would suggest at least looking at the trailer because it's pretty decent. The next title we're going to talk about is called Killer Clowns from Outer Space. So this title is pretty special, mainly because I don't really know what genre to classify it as other than a Dead by Daylight type of game. Like its title suggests, it's basically based off of the movie Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And this game is a multiplayer game where the humans will face off against clowns, and in this case it's on a ratio of 3 to 7, so basically 3 clowns versus 7 humans. Each clown will have their own individual abilities and weapons, and each human will also have certain skill sets. So yeah, basically Dead by Daylight, but a bit more different. The director of Friday the 13th basically made this game as well, so if you liked the Friday the 13th game back then when it was first released, you would probably like this game as well. Although back then there was only one villain per se, but in this case you have 3 villains, so it's a bit more fair. Now let's talk about some of the win conditions of this game. So as a clown, you win by killing majority of the humans, whereas as a human, you have a couple more ways to win. For humans to win, you basically have to either stay alive, escape from that area, or somehow destroy the clown's spaceship. So yeah, as a human you have 3 ways to win, so pretty wide options to pick from if you ask me. And if you're interested in this game, you can actually sign up for the beta test right now, and the game will officially be released next year, early 2023. Although there's no exact release date yet, but it's probably somewhere during the first quarter of the year. Hopefully. The next title we're going to talk about is called Where Winds Meet. If you don't know what wuxia is, you can kind of look it up on the internet because I don't really know how to explain it to you other than it's Chinese martial arts, basically. You might think the game sounds kind of meh because it's made from a Chinese developer, but let me tell you, this game looks pretty darn awesome. If you've heard of the title Black Myth Wukong, you would get what I mean. If you guys have seen the trailer for that game, you would understand that that game is built really well. The graphics are absolutely insane and it looks extremely great. Similarly, this game, Where Winds Meet, is basically at that same level in terms of graphics. But of course, aside from graphics, the game does look pretty good in terms of gameplay. There are some pretty interesting abilities that you have as a human, and the overall feel and aesthetic of the game really feels like Ghost of Tsushima. So if you're into like games like these, make sure to actually check out this game and its trailer, because I'm telling you, you do not want to miss this game, because if it's released with the same quality as the trailer, ooh, this game could potentially be contender for Game of the Year. The next title that we're going to talk about is called Phantom Hellcat, which is releasing on PC, Xbox, PS5 and PS4, although we don't exactly know when at this point of time. Phantom Hellcat is a third-person side-scroller hack-and-slash game, and its concept is pretty interesting because it's about a girl trapped in a theater. Yeah, pretty interesting. And the girl's weapons in this case is using theater props. Pretty unique if you ask me, pretty different as well. Overall, the game actually looks pretty good, the art style is great, and the music, well, since it's based around a theater concept, is equally as great as well. So if you're interested in hack and slash games, make sure to check it out. The last and final title that we're going to talk about today is Dead Island 2. Yes, Dead Island 2 finally has a new trailer. Surprise, surprise. So Dead Island 2 will officially have 6 playable characters, and it will be set around LA. So you'll be able to visit and explore various interesting places in LA while taking down zombies. Aside from that, that's pretty much it for the concept of the game. In terms of gameplay, the game is actually pretty good based on what I've seen so far. Some of the gameplay aspects are pretty different compared to the old game, which is to be expected because the old game was super old. And I would say that I kinda like how this new game will be played like. So basically how skills in this case work for this new game is that you get cards to customize your characters. Yes, I know it's another card-based game, but it's actually pretty interesting. So unlike, well, one of our more recent card-based titles out there, Back 4 Blood, your cards in this case will be divided into tiers, and you can progressively unlock more powerful cards. Now, you might be thinking, what makes this card system different from Back 4 Blood? Because Back 4 Blood also has kind of like a tier-based system because you unlock them progressively. Now, I would say that the main difference here is that your main character in this case is actually semi-infected. So there will be some cards that allow you to embrace the virus within, and it can give you some special abilities. So yeah, that's pretty cool, I would say. I mean, you don't see yourself playing as a zombie in Back 4 Blood, do you? So I'm looking forward to Dead Island 2 a fair bit just because of the system. I mean, it would be sick to be able to play as a zombie. Anyways, the game will be releasing next year, February 23rd, on Epic Game Store, Xbox, as well as PlayStation. So be sure to get the game when it's released if you're interested. And that's all for today, guys. I'm your host for the day, Ming, and we'll see you in our next episode coming soon this week. Thank you very much and goodbye.